I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing out my story like some kind of cautionary tale, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 6 years now. We were that couple everyone envied, happy, stable, with a pretty good life. We had a small but decent apartment, decent jobs, and 2 cats that we spoiled rotten. I honestly thought we had it all figured out. But the last few months I started noticing little things, things I brushed off at first but eventually couldn't ignore. Lisa, my wife, she's always been a bit of a bitch, honestly. She's sharp-tongued, quick to lie, and doesn't take crap from anyone. But she's also charming and got this way of making you feel like you're the only one in the world. That's the side I fell for. She's the kind of woman who's always busy on her phone, working late, going out with friends. I wasn't overly suspicious, but I started catching her lies. Little ones at first, missing phone calls, unexplained absences, my gut telling me she was hiding something. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I could feel that something was off. Then, there was the night I decided to surprise her at her bookstore job. She works in a small local shop downtown, running the register and doing book signings once in a while. That night I was planning to bring her favorite sushi, maybe surprise her after her shift. I parked outside, grabbed the bag, and walked in. The store was pretty quiet, just a few customers browsing. I wandered around, waiting for her to finish. She was busy with a customer, and I watched her for a moment. Something about her behavior struck me as different. She was a little more dismissive, a little more eager to get the customer out of her hair. Finally, she finished with the customer and came over. Her face didn't seem as warm as usual. She was tense, almost nervous. I handed her the sushi and she smiled, but it was kind of forced. We left the store and headed home. That's when I started noticing her phone flashing repeatedly in her purse. She kept glancing at it, then quickly hiding it when I looked her way. I didn't want to push, but my instincts kicked in hard. I thought maybe she was just busy, tired, or overwhelmed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. A few days later, I noticed her phone was more attached to her than ever. She got weirdly defensive when I asked about her day or tried to look at her messages. One night, she was in the shower, and I decided to glance at her phone. I didn't expect much, just curiosity, really. My heart started pounding when I saw a string of texts from someone named Alex. The messages were flirtatious, suggestive, and way too intimate for just a friendly exchange. They were talking about meeting up, about how they couldn't keep their hands off each other, and how they both felt like they were living a lie. I froze. My stomach sank. The words, the tone, this was beyond anything I had imagined her capable of. She's always been good at hiding her lies, but her phone betrayed her. I scrolled further and saw pictures, photos of her and this Alex guy in some hotel room, smirking at their own little secret. I couldn't believe my eyes. My wife, my partner, cheating on me with some guy she met at a book signing event I had arranged just a week ago. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All those months of small lies, her sneaking around, and I never saw it coming. I felt stupid, betrayed, and furious all at once. That's when I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure how she'd react or if she'd even admit to it. I didn't sleep that night. My mind was racing, replaying everything I'd seen. The texts, the photos, her dismissive attitude when I'd asked about her day. I kept thinking about that damn hotel room picture, her lying there in bed, smiling like she didn't have a care in the world while I was sitting at home, clueless. It was like a punch to the stomach every time I closed my eyes. I was angry, hurt, and confused all at once. How could she do this to me, to us? The next morning, I knew I had to confront her. I needed answers, even if I already had a good idea what they'd be. I waited until she was just about to leave for work. I called her name and she turned, that bitchy smirk on her face. What, she snapped, stacking books on the shelf. I felt my fists clench but forced myself to breathe. "We need to talk," I said calmly, though my voice was trembling. She raised an eyebrow, folding her arms. "What now? I'm busy." But I wasn't going to let her brush it off. I pulled out her phone, unlocked it, and showed her the messages. Her face went pale, her eyes darted around like she was trying to find a way out. "What is this?" I demanded. "Who is Alex, and why are you in some hotel with him?" Lisa's lips curled into a nasty smile and she rolled her eyes. "You're overreacting, Mike. It's just some stupid flirtation, nothing serious." She shrugged, acting like she didn't care. "You know I work hard, I deserve a little fun." Her tone was condescending, like I was stupid for even caring about it. I was furious. How could she be so damn dismissive, so cavalier about what she'd done? I felt my blood boil. "Fun? You're cheating on me, Lisa. I saw the messages. I saw the pictures." "How do you explain that? Huh, you've been lying to my face this entire time." I clenched my fists, trying to hold back the rage boiling inside me. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible, like she'd taken a knife and stabbed me in the heart. Her reply was typical. "Oh, come on, Mike, it's not what it looks like. We're just talking, it's not a big deal. You're too jealous, honestly. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." She laughed, that nasty, dismissive laugh that made me want to punch her. She kept insisting it was harmless, just some stupid flirtation, and that I should calm down. But I wasn't calming down. I was secretly planning my next move. I wanted to believe she was lying, that she'd come up with some excuse, some way to spin this so I'd back off. But I knew better. The evidence was damning. And the way she looked at me, like I was the crazy one, just made me feel more alone than I'd ever felt before. I started questioning everything, our whole life, our marriage, the woman I thought I knew. After that confrontation, things got worse. She started acting even more bitchy and defensive, throwing accusations back at me, saying I was paranoid and insecure. She told me I was jealous and that I shouldn't accuse her of something I had no proof of. But I had everything I needed now: the screenshots, the photos, the way she couldn't deny it anymore. Still, I kept quiet, trying to process what I'd just learned. I never thought I'd be the guy whose wife cheated on him with some famous author she'd always been obsessed with. That's a whole other level of humiliation. And honestly, I didn't know how to feel. Part of me wanted to break everything, while another part just wanted to crawl into a hole and disappear. After that initial confrontation, everything changed. Lisa kept up her act, her bitchy attitude, the denial, the accusations that I was just insecure. But I saw through it. Deep inside, I was shattered. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and every time I looked at her, I saw that smug look she had when she thought she was getting away with something. The worst part was her insisting she was innocent, that I was just imagining things, that she still loved me, but she just needed some fun to feel alive again. Yeah, right. I started piecing everything together. The late nights she said were work, the unexplained absences, her phone constantly buzzing, and that hotel photo. It all pointed to one thing: she had been cheating on me with that damn Alex, the author she'd always fangirled over. The guy who was supposedly her favorite writer, the one she'd arranged a book signing event for, just so she could meet him. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could she turn something I did for her into a rendezvous with some other guy? That's when I decided I had to do something about it. I started digging into her phone more. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't help myself. I wanted to find out how deep this rabbit hole went. I combed through her messages, her social media, her emails. I found out she'd been talking to Alex for months, before the book signing even happened. She'd been obsessed with him, posting on her Instagram about his latest book, calling him her literary hero, all while pretending to be the perfect wife at home. It was sickening. She told me she was just a fan, that she admired his work, but I didn't buy it anymore. She was lying, deceiving me, using all her charm to hide her betrayal. One night, I decided I needed to see her face when I told her I knew everything. I set up my own little plan. I told her I'd be working late, but instead, I went to the bookstore late at night. I wanted to see her reaction when I showed up unannounced. She was supposed to close up, but I had a sneaky suspicion she'd be sneaking out early to meet him again. Sure enough, I waited behind some shelves, and when the door opened, I saw her slip out with her bag cradled close to her side. She looked nervous, glancing around like a thief. I followed her quietly, staying far enough back so she wouldn't notice. She headed toward a nearby hotel, one I knew she'd never been to before. Heart pounding, I stayed outside, watching her enter that room with her golden retriever of a smile. I felt sick again, part anger, part heartbreak. I knew then there was no saving this marriage. She was gone, and I was left with nothing but this strange, hollow feeling of betrayal. The next day, I confronted her again, this time with the hard evidence in my hand. I told her I knew everything, about Alex, about the hotel, about her lies. Her face twisted into a sneer, her eyes flashing with contempt. "You're insane," she spat, standing there in her designer jeans and leather jacket. "You're just jealous because I don't want some boring guy like you. I deserve more than this shitty marriage anyway." That's when she started throwing words at me I'd never thought I'd hear from her. Accusations, insults, and then her classic line, "You're just a pathetic loser who can't even keep his wife happy." It hit me like a punch in the stomach, hearing her say that. It was her way of trying to twist everything to make me the bad guy. But I refused to be that guy anymore. I looked her in the eyes and told her I was done. Done with the lies, with the cheating, with the betrayal. I told her I loved her once, but I didn't recognize her anymore. I was tired of being the fool, the sucker who believed in fairy tales. I was done being the guy who got played. The fallout was intense. She accused me of overreacting, of being insecure, of ruining everything because I was paranoid. But I knew the truth. I knew she'd been lying to me from the start. That realization hit hard, and it made me question everything about our marriage. Was she ever really mine? Or was I just fooling myself? That's what hurt the most, realizing I'd been blind, that I'd given her everything and she'd repaid me with betrayal. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't go on pretending everything was fine. Not anymore. After I told her I was done, Lisa's reaction was a mix of contempt and fury. She spat at me that I was overreacting, that I was insecure, that I was just jealous because I couldn't compete with some literary god. She laughed, that cruel, sharp laugh that I'd come to hate. She said I was a pathetic loser who couldn't keep his wife happy, that I was holding her back, that she deserved better. I watched her storm out that day, her heels clicking angrily on the hardwood, and I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. The relief came because I finally knew the truth. The despair because I realized I'd lost her completely. She was gone, and I was left with an empty shell of a marriage that I'd poured everything into. I spent days just wandering around trying to process what had happened. I felt like I'd been punched repeatedly in the gut. How could my wife, the woman I loved and trusted, do this? Cheat on me with some author she idolized. And the worst part, she lied so effortlessly, kept up her act until I found her out. That's what stung the most. Her ability to lie, to deceive. She was good at it, and I'd been so blind. I started making plans in my head. I knew I had to do something to get revenge, not because I was a vindictive person by nature, but because I felt so betrayed that I couldn't just let her walk away unscathed. I decided I'd use her own game against her. If she thought I was just some insecure fool, I'd show her I was more than capable of fighting back. My plan was simple but effective. I would make her see she'd lost everything: her husband, her marriage, her dignity, by exposing her lies openly and decisively. First, I gathered every piece of evidence I had: screenshots of the texts, her hotel receipts, the photos she'd taken with Alex. I kept a detailed timeline and made copies of everything. I didn't want her to deny it anymore. I wanted her to know I knew the truth and was ready to fight for myself. Then I started talking to some of her friends, people I trusted, who knew her better than I did. I wanted to understand if I was overreacting, if maybe I was the problem all along. But no, everyone confirmed what I already suspected. She'd been cheating on me for months, perhaps even longer. Once I had everything, I decided to confront her one last time. I called her at work and told her I needed to see her. She sounded angry, annoyed, like I was bothering her. When she finally showed up at the apartment that evening, I was ready. I laid out all the evidence on the coffee table, watching her face turn pale as she saw everything laid out before her. Her eyes darted from the photos to the messages, trying to come up with some excuse, some way to spin it, but I wasn't having it. "Don't bullshit me, Lisa," I said coldly. "I know everything about Alex, the hotel, all those lies. How long has this been going on?" She stammered, then tried to play innocent, but her voice cracked. "It's not what you think, we're just friends, it meant nothing." I couldn't believe she dared to say that. I told her I didn't care what she called it, I knew the truth. She'd been unfaithful and she'd broken every vow we made. Her reaction was explosive. She spat, called me insecure, and accused me of spying on her, of being controlling. She said I was just jealous because she was beautiful and talented and didn't need a boring loser like me. But I wasn't listening anymore. I knew that her words were just her usual way of dodging responsibility. I told her I was done playing her game, that this was the end for us. I was tired of her lies, her manipulations, and her fake smile. That night I slept on the couch trying to process everything. I felt numb, like I'd been drained of all emotion. The next day I made my decision, no more pretending. I told her I wanted a divorce. I couldn't live with someone who lied so effortlessly, who betrayed me for some fleeting moment of excitement. I didn't care about her excuses anymore. I just wanted out of that hellhole. Looking back, I realized that betrayal changes you. It leaves scars, but also teaches you who your real friends are, what you're truly capable of, and how to pick yourself up again. I'm still hurting, but I'm also stronger. I learned that I shouldn't ignore the little signs of trouble, that honesty and loyalty are everything in a relationship. And I keep telling myself, if she could so easily throw away everything for some fleeting sex with someone she idolized, then she never really loved me to begin with. That's the part I keep coming back to. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. I felt like I was walking around in a fog, just going through the motions. Every time I looked at her, I saw that smug, lying face, and I wanted to scream at her, to shake her and make her admit what she'd done. But I knew that wouldn't change anything. The damage was done. I felt like I'd been living a lie for years, and now I was finally waking up. Getting the divorce process started was a nightmare. Lisa fought me every step of the way, trying to manipulate the situation, throwing more lies and accusations my way. She claimed I was trying to control her, that I was jealous, that I was ruining her life. She called me insecure, pathetic, and said I was just bitter because I couldn't satisfy her. The truth was, I'd never felt so broken and humiliated in my entire life. I'd trusted her, loved her, built a life with her, and she'd repaid me with betrayal. It was like learning the harshest lesson in trust and deception all at once. While all this was happening, I started focusing on myself. I cut off contact with her entirely. No more texts, no more calls. I moved some of my things out, stayed with a friend for a few nights, just trying to breathe. Honestly, it felt like my heart was shattered into 1,000 pieces, but I knew I had to pick up the pieces if I was ever going to move forward. I also started seeing a therapist, something I'd never done before but knew I needed. Talking to someone helped me process all the pain and anger and gave me clarity about what I truly wanted moving forward. One thing I realized through all of this: I hadn't just lost my wife. I'd lost a part of my self-respect, my sense of security, and my trust in people. But I also learned that pain teaches you something. It forces you to reevaluate what matters: your integrity, your dignity, your ability to forgive yourself and move on. I started to see that I wasn't powerless. I could take control of my life again, even if it felt like I was starting from nothing. I also thought about revenge, not in a malicious way, but as a way to reclaim my dignity. I wanted her to know she'd lost everything: her marriage, her reputation, her sense of honesty. I didn't want to sink to her level, but I did want her to see that her choices had consequences. I knew I couldn't undo what she did, but I could make sure she'd never forget that her lies caught up with her. I started working on myself, getting fit, reconnecting with old friends, and focusing on my career. I realized that I deserved better, and I owed it to myself to come out of this stronger. In the end, I decided to end everything officially. I filed for divorce, and she responded with the usual accusations and blame shifting. I didn't care anymore. I knew I'd survived something that could have broken me completely, but I was still standing. I learned that sometimes the greatest revenge is simply walking away and rebuilding your life. That's what I chose to do. Life is too short to waste on lies and betrayal. I'm still hurting, but I'm healing. And I can finally start to see a future where I don't have to look over my shoulder, wondering what she's up to. Looking back now, I realize that the whole experience changed me more than I expected. I used to think that love meant never questioning, never doubting, and always trusting blindly. But betrayal like this teaches you harsh lessons. It's about recognizing your own worth, about understanding that some people will betray you no matter how much you love them. I've come to accept that sometimes walking away is the only way to truly reclaim yourself. I've learned to be more cautious, more aware of the signs I might have missed, and more honest with myself. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fully repair. But I also learned that life goes on, even after the worst kind of betrayal. You just have to find a way to pick up the pieces and move forward. I've started focusing on myself, my job, my health, my happiness. I can honestly say I'm a better person now because of all this pain. It forced me to grow up, to stand up for myself. Lisa's gone, and honestly, I don't miss her, not really. I miss the life I thought we had, but I don't miss the person she became. I hope she finds whatever it is she's looking for, perhaps someone who can forgive her for her lies. As for me, I'm finally starting to feel like I'm getting my life back. It's not perfect, and I still get angry sometimes, still have moments where I second-guess myself. But those moments are fewer now. The biggest lesson I learned is that no matter how much you love someone, if they show you who they truly are, believe them. Don't ignore the signs. Don't make excuses. Because in the end, the only person responsible for your happiness is you. Trust is built over time, but it can be shattered in a second. Protect yourself. Stay true to who you are, and never settle for less than honesty and loyalty. So here I am, single, a little wiser, and a lot more cautious. It hurts like hell, but I know I'll be okay. I've faced betrayal that almost destroyed me, but I survived. And somehow, I'm finally starting to believe that I deserve better. That's what I hold on to now, the hope that someday I'll find someone who truly respects me, who values honesty, and who won't make me feel like I'm walking on broken glass every time I look at them. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, stronger than I was yesterday.